Objective, estimating square roots without a calculator. Estimate the square root of 12 to the nearest hundredth, so we need 2 places after the decimal. Step number 1, find the 2 perfect squares closest to the square root of 12. So you were supposed to memorize the list of the first 15 perfect squares, and we're looking for the 2 that are closest to 12. So 9 and 16 are on either side of 12, and they're both perfect squares. Step number 2, take the square roots of the perfect squares. The square root of 9 is 3, and the square root of 16 is 4. So my answer is going to be between 3 and 4. So it's not going to be 4 point something, that would be between 4 and 5. Our answer is going to be 3 point something because it's between 9 and 16 and 3 and 4. So between 3 and 4. Step number 3, find the difference, so we're going to subtract, between the 2 perfect squares. So my perfect squares were 9 and 16. 16 minus 9 is 7. This will be the denominator. So here I put it in the bottom of the fraction. Step number 4, find the difference between the square root you're estimating and the smaller perfect square. So my smaller perfect square here was 9. So I'm estimating 12, so 12 subtract 9. So it's whatever is underneath to begin with, subtract the smaller perfect square, and I get 3. This will be the numerator, or the top of my fraction. Step number 5, divide your answer from steps 3 and 4. So 3 divided by 7, and we're going to do this by hand later, but just for the sake of time, we're going to say 3 divided by 7, and you get 0.428, and it keeps going. Now, we only need 2 decimal places, so I need to look at the third decimal. It's an 8. This means the 2 is going to round up because 8 is bigger than 5. So 0.43. Step number 6, combine information from steps 2 and 5. So in step 2, I know my answer is between 3 and 4. So I know my answer is going to be 3 point something. And in step 5, I got 0.428, which makes this 0.43. So therefore, the square root of 12 is going to be 3.43 because this gave us 0.43, and we know it has to be 3 point something. All right, example number 1. Estimate the square root of 45 to the nearest hundredth. So step number 1, choose the 2 perfect squares closest to 45. So from our list of perfect squares, 36 and 49 are closest to 45. The square root of 36 is going to be less than the square root of 45, which is going to be less than the square root of 49. Step number 2, take the square root of the perfect squares. Well, the square root of 36 is 6, and the square root of 49 is 7. So the square root of 45 has to be between 6 and 7. Those are the 2 consecutive integers. Step number 3, find the difference between the 2 perfect squares. So 49 minus 36. You're always going to say the biggest perfect square, subtract the smallest perfect square. 49 minus 36 gives me 13, and 13 will go in the denominator of my fraction. Step number 4, subtract the square root of the number you're estimating and the smaller perfect square. So the number I'm estimating is square root of 45, so 45 minus the smaller perfect square, 36. 45 minus 36 is 9, and this number goes in the numerator, or the top of my fraction. Now divide. So I'm going to show you old school long division. You should be familiar with this, but just in case you aren't, this is Mr. Bringdown. He tells us how to do long division by hand. So first step is divide, then multiply, subtract, and bring down. This little bow tie says BD, bring down. And then you repeat, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. And you do this until you have enough decimal places for your answer. So we're rounding to the nearest hundredth, so we need 2 places after the decimal. So 13 is on the bottom, it goes on the outside, and 9 is on the top, it goes on the inside. Now, 13 doesn't go into 9, so I need to put a decimal and some zeros. 13 goes into 90 6 times. So I need to bring my decimal up and put a 6 here. Now multiply. 6 times 13 is 78. Next step, subtract. 90 minus 78 is 12. Then bring down. So I'm bringing down one of these zeros. Now you only bring down one digit at a time. Now start over. Divide. 13 goes into 120, let's see, 9 times. 13 times 9. 9 times. 9 times 13 is 117. Subtract. 120 minus 117 is 3. Then bring down. So bring down another 0. 13 goes into 30 2 times. Now multiply. 2 times 13, 26. Subtract. And we have enough decimals, enough places after the decimal so we can stop. So I know this 2 is not going to round that 9 up, so 0.69. So step 6, combine your answer from step 2 and step 5. So I know it's going to be 6.69. So my answer will be 6.69. All right, let's do another example together. All right, example number 2. Estimate the square root of 113 to the nearest hundredth. So again, we want 2 places after the decimal. 113 is between the 2 perfect squares, 100 and 121. Second step, take the square root of the perfect squares. The square root of 100 is 10. The square root of 121 is 11. Step 3, subtract those perfect squares. So 121 minus 100 gives you 21. This goes in the denominator of the fraction. Then subtract the number you're estimating and the smaller perfect square. So the smaller one is 100. So 113 minus 100 gives us 13. This goes in the numerator of the fraction. So 13 divided by 21. And again, we can set this up and do it by hand. So 21 goes on the outside because it's in the bottom, and 13 goes on the inside because it's on the top. We need some extra zeros because 21 doesn't go into 13. So 21 goes into 130, let's see how many times, 21 times 21 times 6. All right, so 6 times 21 is 126. So after we divide and multiply, then we subtract. So 130 minus 126 is 4. Now bring down 1 0 at a time. So I have 40. Now I'm going to divide. 21 divided by 40 is 1. Multiply. 1 times 21 is 21. Subtract. 40 minus 21 is 19. And bring down. So bring down another 0. 21 goes into 190, let's see, 9 times. 9 times 21 is 189. Subtract, you get 1. And now I have 3 places after the decimal. I only need 2, so I can look at this 9 and say it's going to round that 1 up to a 2. So this would be about 0.62. So I know that my answer is going to be between 10 and 11, so 10 point something, and it's going to be 10.62. So my final answer, 10.62.